You should be ready to check the answers to your warm-up here. 2 questions today, so make sure you have your grading pens out. Number 1, when you write that in log form, the first thing is that means we need the word log. The base is the number connected to the exponent, so 8 goes below of the answer equals your exponent. So log base 8 of 64 equals 2. The second question is to reverse the order. So we start with the base, which is 7. The exponent is always in the equal side. And that should equal 49. Hopefully you got both of these correct. Here are the answers from last night's homework. 24, 25, and 26 were like the first warm-up. 27, 28, and 29 were like the third. So go ahead, check your answers, discuss them as needed, and then unpause this to start the notes for today, which we're continuing from yesterday. Today we're going to learn how to evaluate a logarithm. The first thing is we're going to write it as an exponential equation. And we're going to set it equal to x because we're going to be solving usually for the exponent. And then we solve for x. So our first example says, what's the value of log base 5 of 125? So the first thing we do is we set this equal to x. So log base 5 of 125 is equal to x. And then we write it in exponential form. So we start with the base, which is 5. The answer is in the exponent spot, so 5 to the x equals 125. So now the question is, 5 times itself, how many times is equal to 125? Well, we know that 5 times 5 is equal to 25, and that's not enough. So if I go 5 times 5 times 5, go ahead and do that, and you get 125. So there are 3 5s here, which means x is equal to 3. So sometimes solving these, you'll be using guess and check to figure out what's the exponent that it would equal to. So go ahead and try A and B. Check with a neighbor as you get your answers. Hopefully you agree. If not, figure out who is correct, and then unpause this to check the answers. So again, the first thing that you should have done is set each equal to x, so log base 2 of 32 equals x, and then we write it as our exponential equation. So 2, since that's the base, to the x is equal to 32. And the question is, 2 to what power is 32? And you should have discovered that x equals 5. And the reason it equals 5 is because 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 equals 32. Going over to letter B, again, first step, set it equal to x. Log base 3 of 1 equals x. So we rewrite it in our exponential equation. So the base is 3. X will be the exponent equals 1. So the question is, 3 to what power equals 1? The only way to turn 3 into a 1 using an exponent is for x to equal 0. You're going to practice 8 problems now. Feel free to use a neighbor to check your answers and to discuss them as needed, and then unpause the video when you're ready to. So here are your problems. They're on your notes. Go ahead, take your time in doing them, and then again, once the entire class has them completed, then unpause this to check your answers. Number 9, we have log base 2 of 128 is equal to x, which means 2 to the x equals 128, and x should equal 7. Number 10, set it equal to x. Now this one, hopefully you remember that when there isn't a number for the base, it's that invisible 10. So 10 to the x equals 100,000. So x equals 5. Number 11, set it equal to x. So 1/3 is your base to the x equals 1/9. Well, we need to change a 3 into a 9, but the 1 needs to stay 1. So our exponent here would be a 2. Because if you square 1, it stays 1, and if you square 3, it becomes 9. Number 12, we still set it equal to x. So I have 7 to the x equals 7 to the 6. Well, if you notice, the bases are the same. So in order for this to be true, x has to equal 6. Going to the next row, log base 4 of 2 equals x. So 4 to the x equals 2. Now here's where it gets a little tricky. We need an exponent that would make that 4 turn smaller. So we have to think back to all of our exponent rules. When we are changing a 4 into a smaller number, that means we need a fraction, because a fraction means that we have a radical. So x equals 1/2. And the reason we know that is because 4 to the 1/2 means the square root of 4, which is 2. So anytime your value gets smaller, that means x is going to be a fraction. If you put it as 0.5, that would have been fine too. Number 14 seems like we're missing a lot of numbers here. Well, we set it equal to x. Since I don't have a base, we know that has to be 10. So 10 to the x equals 1. And again, as we stated earlier, in order to turn a number into 1, the exponent has to be 0. Number 15, equal to x. Our base is 3, so 3 to the x equals 1/81. So now we're taking a whole number and we're turning it into a fraction. Well, the only way to do that with an exponent is to make it a negative exponent, because negative exponents make the 3 drop to the bottom. So 3 to what power is 81, and that's 3 to the 4th. But since I want it to be a fraction, the exponent needs to be negative. And number 16, the last practice problem. So we set it equal to x. So 4 to the x equals 64. So 4 to what power is 64? And that's 4 to the 3rd power. So make sure you've corrected your work. Rewind this video if you need to for any of the parts. And make sure you get started on your homework if there's time.